Hello, YouTube viewer. As many of you know, normally what we try to do is we try to record our sermons on Sunday morning when we're actually having a live worship service, and then we simulcast that and also record it and archive it on YouTube. Well, unfortunately, for this particular sermon, our computer kind of broke down in the middle of the service, so we were unable to record this. So we went ahead and decided to re-record it just so that we could have it in the archive. And so what you're about to see is a little unusual in that it is the sermon that we all heard on March 22nd, but it's to an empty house. So I just want to let you know the vibe is going to feel a little bit different, and that's the reason why. I can guarantee you that on the Sunday in question that we did this, all the jokes worked. Everyone laughed heartily. So I hope you enjoy this sermon. Each week, we have been examining one line from our congregation's spoken affirmation, the one that we recite together at the end of every Sunday morning worship service. Today, the seventh and penultimate installment of our sermon series, we will deviate from the usual script just a little bit in that we will be looking at two lines of text instead of one. And that is because the two lines are grammatically connected. So to properly understand the meaning of these lines, we have to analyze them together. Today we will consider the words, "to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine." In many ways, today's text represents the climax of the story. It's the big surprise reveal that comes out of left field. To understand what I mean by this, we will have to look at the structure of our affirmation. The affirmation essentially begins with a preamble. In the preamble, three declaratory statements are made, which serve as a foundation for everything that is to follow. 1, love is the doctrine of this church. 2, the quest for truth is this church's sacrament. And 3, service is this church's prayer. Following the preamble are a series of infinitive phrases. Now, I know when I said that, some of you just had a PTSD flashback to your 8th grade grammar class. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. None of this will be on the test. I used to be a high school English teacher, so I'm kind of geeking out over this grammar right now, if I can be honest with you. But anyway, there's a series of infinitive phrases. An infinitive is basically just a verb that is preceded by the word to, T-O. So following the preamble, which contains 3 declaratory statements, we then have 3 infinitive phrases. Beautiful grammatical symmetry. I love it. The 3 infinitive phrases are: 1, to dwell together in peace; 2, to seek knowledge in freedom; 3, to serve humanity in fellowship. There are several things worth noting here. First, if we were reading this affirmation for the very first time with completely fresh eyes, and we just finished reading the 3rd infinitive, the line that goes to serve humanity in fellowship, we would all be quite confused. You see, these infinitives so far are just kind of floating in space. We do not yet understand how they function grammatically in the sentence because we have not yet read or discovered the grammatical string that tethers these words to the core, or the independent clause, or the subject and verb of the sentence. And this is by design. This is what grammarians call a periodic sentence. A periodic sentence happens when the author withholds the full, clear meaning of his sentence until the very end. It's a rhetorical technique that, when used effectively, creates a feeling of anticipation and suspense as the sentence is being read, because the reader finds himself a bit lost at the beginning of the sentence. The reader is essentially being led blindly by the author's words as if through a maze. Isn't grammar fun? Today, we finally reached the point in this affirmation where the author allows us to glimpse what grammatical role these 3 infinitives play in this text. So suspension now moves towards resolution. And there's a bit of linguistic playfulness at work here. It's like the author is trying to sneak this structural shift in under our nose. It's like a surprise party. The previous 3 infinitives start with the word to. you'll notice that today's text also begins with the word to. But it is not an infinitive because it's not followed by a verb. Instead, it's followed by a noun, which makes this a prepositional phrase instead of an infinitive phrase. This will not be on the test, but trust me, this is fascinating. This represents a significant shift in both the grammar and the substance of this affirmation. In other words, what is about to come is different from everything we have so far read in this affirmation. What this phrase, to the end, gives us is the overarching purpose behind the previous phrases. You didn't even know there was an overarching purpose to those phrases, did you? Grammatically, you couldn't know that until you reached this point of the affirmation, the point we are at today. The word end here is akin to the Greek word telos. That was a favorite word of Aristotle's. Telos can be interpreted as end, but I think it's better translated in English as the word purpose or function. Aristotle argued that everything has a telos. The telos of a knife, that is the purpose or the function of a knife, the end that the creator of that knife had in mind when he crafted that knife is to cut. The telos of a hammer is to hit. The telos of a bell is to ring. You get the idea. So part of the amazing climactic reveal of today's text is that the three infinitive phrases we have studied these past 3 weeks actually have a single, larger, overarching telos or purpose. According to the text, to dwell together in peace is not an ultimate end unto itself. To seek knowledge in freedom is not an ultimate end unto itself. Even to serve humanity in fellowship is not an ultimate end unto itself. Each of these, or all three together, are actually means to an even greater end. According to the words of this affirmation, we dwell together in peace, we seek knowledge in freedom, and we serve humanity in fellowship so that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. That is the telos, or the purpose of all the promises we make in this covenant. It is the reason we make the covenant in the first place, so that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. A few thoughts about these words. First, note who is the subject of this clause. It's not just our souls, it's all souls. Our theology is one of radical inclusivity that harkens back to our Universalist forebears. Not only is our faith open to all, this affirmation suggests that even the souls of those who do not identify as UU are welcome to share in the blessings and perhaps also accept the responsibilities that our faith engenders. It is not a coincidence that several of the most prominent UU congregations across the country share the name All Souls. New York, D.C., and the biggest UU church in the association, Tulsa, Oklahoma. The great purpose / blessing / responsibility of our collective faith, which is for all, is growth into harmony with the divine. Let's talk about that word divine, shall we? Every dictionary I consulted supplied at least 2 definitions for this word. One definition is usually some permutation of the words the Godhead, or related to or coming from God. A second definition usually included the words very good or supremely good. The beauty of our English language, of all language really, is that words can and do have multiple meanings. Language, in this way, is a beautiful and fitting reflection of our UU faith and the pluralism that we embrace. As words can poetically hold many meanings simultaneously, so too can our human experience, the collective phenomena of all reality, be open to interpretation. open to many simultaneous meanings. And that is why the word divine is a wonderful and apt word for us UUs to use in an affirmation like this. For theists of all kinds, the word divine here can be synonymous with the word God, however that word is understood. This allows the line to be read as suggesting that our great purpose in this life is divine union or connection to God. Now, for atheists, agnostics, and humanists of all kinds, the word divine here can just as rightly take on the other dictionary definition, supreme good. Thus, this line can also be read to suggest the great end of our faith is to bring all of us into greater resonance with our most important values. And here's the thing. The values that most non-theists recognize as having supreme worth are the same values that most theists recognize in their God, which makes their God worthy of worship in the first place. For most of us, that supreme good is love. Thus, these dual meanings of divine, though substantively different, are not incompatible. They harmonize rather well. In my opinion, the most interesting and most important word in this affirmation is the word harmony. Harmony, of course, is a musical term, which also makes it a scientific term because music is sound waves and frequencies and mathematics. But it's also a magical word because music, as anyone who has ever really heard it can tell you, music is also magic. Harmony is simply the playing of multiple notes simultaneously, with a common understanding usually that the harmony should sound euphonic or pleasing to the ear. When it comes to sound or music, I'm going to suggest 3 ways of categorizing how multiple voices can come together. And to help demonstrate this, earlier this week, I asked Davina to put together a group of singers to assist us. So I'll ask our mini singing troupe to come up to the stage at this time. First, there is the monophonic voice. That simply means music played or sung with a single, unaccompanied melodic line. It could be one or many singers, but all singing in unison, as a unity, singing the exact same melody line.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Not too bad, right? The second type of sound is dissonance, the mingling of discordant sounds, different notes from different voices that don't go together particularly well, everyone doing their own thing. It kind of makes you cringe a bit. And then finally, there is harmony. Multiple, diverse voices singing different notes, but together, to create a rich, textured, euphonic sound.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Thank you, singers. These 3 categories of sound can also represent 3 ways human beings can choose to live together in community. The first was monophonic, total unity. Unity is not a bad thing. It doesn't sound bad at all. It's fairly easy to create, doesn't take a lot of work or practice. Just takes everyone singing the exact same notes at the same time. Most churches are built on this idea of unity, the unifying force usually being a creed or a dogma that keeps everyone saying and believing the exact same thing. Now, there will always be those who want to break away from the monotony of absolute unity. Sometimes these rebels gather themselves together, but they value individuality so much They are so scared of the danger of any kind of conforming principle that they have no cohesion whatsoever. They are a so-called community of radical individualists, each singing their own song in their own key to the beat of their own drum. From a church perspective, this is a danger that, because of our religious pluralism and a misreading of our first principle, all UU congregations face. Finally, though, we have harmony. Many different voices, each singing different individual parts, but coherently, in agreement. Each voice voluntarily choosing to sacrifice part of its absolute freedom and individuality for the greater good of the group. All to make beautiful, rich, complex music. Because of the religious and the philosophical pluralism that we embrace, this kind of harmony is what UUism at its best can be. And when UUism is at its best, there is no other faith quite like it. No other faith I know of has the theological infrastructure to be able to reach such heights. But harmony is hard. It takes work, a lot of practice, and a lot of patience. Sometimes we will fail. Sometimes individuals will miss their pitch or go out of key, and we will dip into dissonance. But the strength of our love and commitment to one another will always bring us back to harmony. If Unitarian Universalism is to grow in the 21st century, and I believe that it is uniquely positioned to do that, then we must master this concept of harmony. Yes, we are all one, but one with many, many voices. UU congregations that truly live harmoniously, with many voices singing different but complementary notes, those congregations will thrive in the new millennia. UU congregations that become theologically and philosophically homogeneous, those who sell their theological birthright of diversity and pluralism for the safety and ease of monophonic unity, they may sustain about as well as any other church that rallies around a single creed or a single dogma. And UU congregations that never cohere or coalesce into a true community. Congregations where respect for individualism has become sacrosanct and devolved into selfishness. Those congregations where every person sings his own song in his own key, at his own tempo, paying no heed to the voice of his neighbor, thus creating a cacophony of philosophical and theological anarchy, those congregations will die because no one will want to listen to them. Maggie Lovins, our Southern Region contact, calls Unitarian Universalism a life-saving faith, and I agree with her. In fact, I believe our faith can save the entire world, not in the evangelical Christian sense, but in the sense that we can offer the world a vision of hope. We can offer this cacophonous, dissonant, divided world, we can offer each and every soul in it a model of harmony. I believe, like many of you, that embracing and harnessing all of the diversity and differences among humanity in order to create harmony is the path to lasting peace. But no one is going to listen to us if we can't make harmony among ourselves. So we have got to get this thing right. So my charge to all of us this morning is simply this: let us sing. Not in dissonance, but neither in mere unity. Let us sing in true, full, rich, complex harmony. Blessed be.